Hey guys, it's Justin. I have an incredible episode in store for you today. I have a guest that has helped my business go to the next level. And so if you're a real estate agent and you're ready to take your business to the next level, you need to get your books in order. You need to get your finances in order. Maybe you owe some money to the IRS and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to pay my taxes. Guys, don't miss this episode. My guest today is going to give you some great information that's going to leave you with some stuff that's going to help you want to change your business. Don't miss this one. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Justin Ford Podcast, where I'll be releasing life-changing principles and valuable information focused on all things faith, finance, family, fitness, real estate, and so much more. Let's go! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Justin Ford Podcast. Super excited to be with you here again today. I hope you've been doing great since the last episode. If you're loving the show, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And if you're really loving the show, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. If you haven't followed me yet on social media, you can at the official Justin Ford. Again, at the official Justin Ford. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, and also here on YouTube. I've got an incredible, guest in store for you today. We got a great episode in store for you today. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Next Door Lending. Next Door Lending is a team of professionals that believe everyone should be treated as if they live next door. The founders and team members have more than 150 years of combined loan experience, helping clients all over the country choose the best loan program to help you accomplish your goals. Next Door Lending is currently licensed in 26 states and has a team of over 100 loan officers specializing in helping you get the best rate and terms. And so whether you're looking to refinance your home or you're looking to purchase your next home, call my friends over at Next Door Lending today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. Guys, anytime I bring a guest on the show, it's because the person that I'm going to bring on has a story or has something that they can add of value. And, the guest that I have today, I've had the opportunity to work with for about a year now. And as a real estate agent and as a business owner, having your books in order and knowing your numbers is super, super important. And when I started to work with Michael last year, I realized that not only is Michael great at what he does, he's an expert at it. And so I'm super excited to welcome Michael Kilner from Agent CFO to the show. Welcome, Michael. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Justin.
Yeah, you too. Excited to have you. Obviously, Michael, first-time guest here on the show. Our primary audience is real estate agents. We reach a lot of real estate agents, and one of the things that I've realized and learned over time is most real estate agents do not know their numbers. Most real estate agents do not have their books together. And when I came to, when we started working together last year, I didn't really have my books in order either. And so I'm like, in order to go to the next level, I've got to really know my numbers and I really need to know my books. And so I'm super excited to talk about that today. But before we get into that, I'd love for the listeners to get a chance to learn a little bit about you. And so if you could just share real quick, Michael, how you got started in this industry. I know that you come from the real estate industry. Mm-hmm. I know your primary client base is real estate agents, but just tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so I came into this industry, like you said, through the actual real estate sales side. Mm-hmm. So my brother Pat, who still runs a successful real estate team in the DC metro area, when I was graduating from college, he said, hey, I need a new director of operations. My director of operations is moving on to a new opportunity. Do you want to work with me? And I was actually applying to graduate schools and things like that at the time. And I said, you know what? I'm about to get married. It'd be great to earn some money, and I might be good at it. This might be interesting to try out for a little bit. Well, that little bit turned in, to about a dozen years now of being in real estate. And all of my experience came from working with my brother on his team. And what I gravitated towards very early on was the financials, right? So understanding all of the accounting, all of the models for how to build a team, how to make it economically viable,
Yep.
how to keep a budget, that kind of stuff. And actually, I was sitting in a conference room about a year into working with my brother. We were reviewing the financials for the previous month, and he said, "You seem really interested in this." He was like, "You know what you should think about is if you got so good at this, would there be an opportunity for other people to pay you to do that?" And I remember sitting in that conference room and thinking, like, actually, that could be really cool. Like, much as I love working directly, with my brother and doing all the operations things, I actually really enjoy this side of it, right? All of the
Yeah.
accounting and financials, and which is not common. There's not a ton of people who really gravitate towards those things.
Right.
Sort of understandably, it can be super tedious.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I gravitated towards it. I really love it. And so that conversation with my brother really started my journey to where I am today, which is now working with, we've worked with probably over 100 real estate teams at this point, whether short-term consulting or, long-term partnership, monthly accounting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what we love. And that's where we've carved out our niche. We have a small team, a team of 3, but we're really productive, really efficient. Our top teams are closing, upwards of $7 million in GCI a year, down to, solo agents who, just, they might not be looking for all the bells and whistles, but they really, really trust us to give them good, clean books, good, clean financials, and to give them the truth. And that's really, I think, how we look at it, is that we want to be able to give our clients total clarity.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not guessing, are these numbers correct? They can know, for sure, like, these numbers are correct. This is how my business currently is. And then they have the clarity to go and make the really important decisions about their business, right? About hiring, about investing in the next lead generation strategy or campaign, right? About potentially cutting costs, about mergers, all those types of things. We want to give them a really, really solid basis of truth that then they can go make those crucial decisions from.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that, because this is not the fun, exciting part of real estate. Like you said,
I think it's fun and exciting, but it's not.
Right. But and here's why. Would you say on the disc test you're a high C?
Yeah, super high. I'm SC, like, almost
all day, right? Because as a high I and a high D, I want nothing to do with numbers naturally, right? Like, I'm like, no way. I just want to go sell more homes. I want to go meet with more clients. I want to go take more listings. And at the same time, your role and what you bring to the table is so vital. Numbers are important regardless, but if somebody's a part-time agent just doing a handful of deals a year, they're probably not thinking, well, I got to really know my numbers. But when you really start to scale and you really start to make some serious money and you start to take on some expenses and, make a commitment to build a team, like, it's really non-negotiable if you really want to scale. And, what I found for many, many years was I wanted nothing to do with numbers, because when I look at spreadsheets and I look at numbers and try to find percentages, like, my brain hurts. That really, as a high I and a high D, like, my brain hurts. And so, I avoided it for a long time, and I just kind of did my best, but, I didn't really have a grasp on it. And when I made the decision that it's time to be a business owner, not just a sales agent, not just someone who's selling homes, but I want to be a business owner. I want to scale. I want to grow, and I need to get a real snapshot of my business. That's when I found you, and you've been able to really help me understand my numbers, and it's really been beneficial. And I want to go deeper into that. But before I do that, I'd love to talk about, because you've been doing this a while, because you have a grasp on this with primary listeners being real estate agents, where have you seen the shortfall, or where have you seen a lot of agents make mistakes or things not work? Because we even hear a lot of times most real estate teams are not profitable. Most people don't even really realize that they're not making any money until it's too late, and you're like putting all your money, time, and effort into all this, and then eventually you burn out. I mean, what has been your overall understanding of where most people are and why this is so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one mistake, and this is probably going to give, some people like a visceral feeling when they hear this, it's taxes. That I think is is the place that is so opaque, and it's so difficult to understand, and where I feel like so many folks who are small business owners, even outside of real estate agents, just don't get really good advice. Um, and and it's tough because there's not that many folks that um are sort of in this space who really want to counsel and advise. I mean, there are some, and some are really exceptional. um but I think folks just don't have they never have a really good plan for their taxes, and so those come and sort of hit them like a truck, where they're cruising along, they're making money, right? And then they're like, "Oh, I need to file my taxes." So then they have to try and assemble everything together, right? They have to
Right.
cobble together their revenue and their expenses, and they have to either try and do it on their own, or they're going to send it to an accountant, and the accountant, who doesn't really want to work with just sort of this mess of things that have been sent to them, um, kind of put something together, but doesn't have the bandwidth to give them any really good advice. And then they just get hit with a huge tax bill. And they're like, okay, where did this come from? Right?
Mm,
What am I getting taxed on? What are all these different
wow.
taxes? Right? How is it this high? And I haven't saved. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is that, just agents just being able to wrap their arms around taxes and have a game plan from the beginning for those first crucial years. When you really start to hit a level of success in real estate, you can make money really fast,
Yeah.
right? There can be years of things being very tight, but
Yep.
then if you hit your stride, or you start working with a really good team, right, where that team enables you to hit your stride, boom, you can rocket up in terms of
Yep.
dollars earned, and then just being able to set aside money for taxes, and have that sort of as a knowing that that is your biggest single expense,
Right.
having that set aside, that's really crucial. That's where a lot of mistakes are made.
Yeah.
So, um,
Well, let
I
me
think
ask you this
there's a
before you go into that.
yeah.
Why don't real estate agents have a grip on taxes or pay? I mean, it's because it's a like a an epidemic, right? With real estate agents with taxes. Like, why is it that real estate agents really struggle with paying their taxes and setting that money aside?
Yeah, because it's not something that most folks have a framework to think about.
Mm,
And a lot of folks are coming from industries where they're getting a W-2, right? The taxes are being withheld. Your
yep.
employer is withholding taxes from your paycheck and sending them to the government. When you are a real estate agent, you are by default, you are a small business owner. And so all of the tax collecting efforts then fall back on you. And it's a really unsexy thing to think about when you're really just trying to figure out, how do I go and get sales, right? How do I
Yep.
go and get my first sale? How do I go and get my first 10 sales? So it's kind of it's one of those things that I think is not natural, because people don't have a framework to think about it. And it's also it's not interesting, I'll say, right? Like we already mentioned it. It's not something that, like, most folks who are successful in real estate want to necessarily be concerned about. They want to be
Right.
concerned about meeting people, marketing, sales, building their brand, right? Which is great, and they should have that. But they need to have, at some point, the ability to step back and say, okay, what do I need to make sure that this is not a surprise for me?
Yeah.
Who do I need in terms of advisory? What do I need in terms of systems? What do I need in terms of just like my banking structure? Do I have a savings account where I can put money aside and pretend like it's not there,
Yep.
so that when tax time comes, I can just pull from that, right? So
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that caused that to be hard for real estate agents is because if you have a down month and you didn't have any money coming in that month,
hmm
and you know there's
hmm
5 grand sitting over here for taxes,
yeah,
do you pay your bills, or do so it's like it's kind of it's a struggle. And I think that and that's why I really wanted to have you on today, because this isn't really talked about very often. Like, you hear people, hey, this is how you sell more homes, and this is how you prospect, but nobody's
yeah,
saying, are you paying your taxes? Nobody's saying, hey, this is how you account and you do this and you set up your books. And I think that a lot of real estate agents really struggle in this area because it's not being taught, it's not being talked about, and most people do not know how to properly do this. And so, when you were doing this for your brother, and he gave you the idea of, hey, maybe you could create something here, to kind of take this into the marketplace. How long ago was that you decided to launch Agent CFO?
yeah. So I started to I approached a few other teams who were sort of in our office, or in kind of the surrounding offices, who I knew were successful. And I said, hey, I will do this for dirt cheap if you basically let you be guinea pigs for me.
Yep.
Um, and man, I look back and I think there were so many things that I did not know. And luckily I had some really good um, mentors, right, who sort of helped buffer me. I had a couple of really good accountants who I was able to turn to, and they were incredibly generous with their advice. Um, but I think I was just so young and naive that I was like, all right, let's just jump into it. Let's do it. So I started to do it as a side hustle for years and years,
Yeah.
for actually like 5 years. Because in the interim, my brother and I, we ran the team, grew the team. We started an independent brokerage, then sold the independent brokerage. Um, and really in 2020 beginning of 2020 was when I decided, all right, I'm going full in on this. I had built up enough of the side hustle to say, all right, this is what I want to do, and this is all I'm going to do, and I'm going to focus on my clients and their needs, and I'm going to really turbocharge the offering. Um, and since then, we've grown significantly, just in terms of like our capacities, our efficiencies, our processes. So we're able to handle a lot for a lot of folks, and give them, our idea really at this point is that we want to give folks as much value as if they had an actual full-time CFO on their team helping them
Yep.
make decisions, right? And of course, that's not tenable for most real estate teams, right? So we say, look, we want to provide as much value as that type of person, but in a much more cost-effective way, right? In a
Yeah.
much more sort of value-driven way. Um,
Well, I was
so
going to say, and so last year for us as a team, we were trying to find a bookkeeper or an accountant, for our books, and we had found a lady locally who was just a general bookkeeper or accountant,
mhm.
and she did books for all sorts of different types of businesses, all sorts of nonprofits, things like that. We're like, okay, cool, she can help us with our books. Well, for whatever reason, like, that didn't work out, and then I remember going to our community of real estate agents and just asking if anybody knew someone who specialized in real estate books and real estate, accounting. And that's how I was connected with you. And the reason why I'm so glad that I got connected with you is because this is what you specialize in. You're not just a general bookkeeper, a general, CFO. Like, this is what you specialize in. And I remember when I first, met with you on our initial call, you're like, we do all of these different things to help you not just look at your books, but to really break things down from a real estate standpoint, as if you were my CFO for my team, and like you did it for your brothers. Can you talk about like the difference between what you offer versus, let's say, just a general bookkeeper, and why that's so important if you're obviously in real estate?
Yeah, no, and I want to say first, that I think there's a lot of So a lot of really good professional bookkeepers out there, right? So you
Yep.
never want to be like, ah, well, everyone sucks. If you don't,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
if you're not working with me, you're working with a loser. No, there are really, really good professionals in this industry and people who are generalists and they do a tremendous job.
Yep.
But the key difference is that we understand what the end user, i.e., the real estate CEO,
Yep.
we understand what it is that they need. And that's what we are producing for them. So, whereas a sort of a generalist bookkeeper is like, all right, how do I make this make sense at the end of the year come tax time? All right, how do I sort of shoehorn all of these disparate expenses um, into what the tax return says the deductible expenses are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my mandate, right? My mandate is to basically make it pretty organized, but taxes are what we're prepping for. And we look at it as, okay, no, this is the health of the business, right? This is the final lag measure. The final thing that you can measure in the business is dollars and cents. And so we want our CEOs to know exactly how efficient they are at making money, right? And how much return on their investment they're getting for every single category of spending. So we're also looking at it from the tax lens, of course, right? We can't leave that out. And our work product is crucially important to all of the accountants that we work with. But primarily, we are concerned about how does this reporting give clarity to the CEO? And at the same time, they need to be able to compare their numbers to their peers, right? So we operate very much off of the millionaire real estate agent model,
Yep.
which I think is the most robust economic budget model for real estate teams. Now, there have been a lot of modifications in the 20 plus years that the MREA model has been out, but there's still so much wisdom in what Gary and his team put together,
Mm-hmm.
and so we want all of our clients to be able to say, okay, I'm running this model, and I can go and compare my P&L, my income statement, to anybody else running this model, and we'll be able to compare and contrast and really look at apples to apples here. So that's our focus, and that's not what most generalists are going to be able to do.
Yeah. And I love that because again, if you're in real estate, you want to make sure that you really understand and know your numbers. And I'll just be honest, and this is just me being real. I've never been a numbers guy. So for me, I didn't even, when I first started working with you, I didn't even really know what to look at that was
Right.
important to know. And once,
Yeah.
we cleaned up what my books were and my, my QuickBooks look like, we were able to then, and this is something that you offer as a client, is a monthly meeting where we meet on Zoom and we go through the numbers. And I remember
Yeah.
you being able to say, hey, this is the margin that you're running in as a profit, and this is where we need to be. And then we were able to, look at my numbers and say, what could we do without that would help our number then go up? All right, let's go out and get a few more, productive agents that are going to increase this bottom line. And now we have a game plan, and what you've been able to do is help me know how to navigate my business better because of the numbers, because of what we're reviewing. So what have I done? In the last month, I've went out and hired 5 more agents. I was able to pull back some spending in some specific areas and redirect some spending in some other areas that have now given me a better ROI. Whereas before, I would just continue to kind of, keep going forward without really having a real know-how or a plan of action. And that has been, super beneficial for my business. And that's really why I wanted to bring you on. The show was not only to, share what you've been able to do for me, but I know that this is a big need. Being a coach in the real estate industry, I know a lot of real estate agents who are struggling, with books and with numbers. And I guarantee the majority of them don't even really know their numbers. They just know, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I got a lot of money coming in, I'm closing a lot of deals, but you're not really tracking things and you don't really know, where where you are. And can you share just some of the things that I know you touched on it, but like, what are some of the things, like if an agent is listening right now and they're like, you know what, I'm interested in reaching out. What are some of the things that you offer within your monthly program that is more than just, all right, here's your books, but you know, the different charts and graphs and things to really help an agent know their business?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'll hit on a couple things you said. I mean, the first is that I think there's a really key distinction that needs to be made between what it is that we're able to offer and what a coach offers, right? And
Right.
I think you need, if you really want to be successful in real estate, you need both, right?
Yes.
I think you need someone who can break down your financials in layman's
Hmm.
terms, right? And answer your questions so that you kind of have that full grasp that you need, right?
Hmm.
And I think, not in a jargony way and not in a way that makes you feel like, I think there's a tendency among some accountants to kind of make people feel bad. We want people to feel like I completely understand this now because it's broken down into a framework that I can understand. There's a story behind these numbers, and I feel like I'm confident about telling that story now.
Hmm.
That's the first thing. And a coach, right, on the other hand, a coach is really about mindset, right? It's about driving sales, it's about growing your team, it's about hiring, it's about leadership, things we can't really touch on.
Right.
Um, but in a similar way, what coaches do is they kind of hold open a space where thinking can happen, right? Where you know really good coaches are able to do that. They're able to help their clients discover for themselves what it is. They can't do the work for them, but they can discover that next step because they hold open that space. And we do the same thing. We're able to kind of hold open a space where they can discover how all of their numbers are interacting with each other, right? And where they
Yeah.
are actually getting a return on investment, where they need to beef things up, where they need to pull back, right? Um, so that's really what we're looking at. So I think more directly to your question, you were asking about like what it is that we offer. The first thing is that we do offer that monthly meeting, which is crucial. I think that is crucial, especially early on in the relationship. Um, you can't be looking at just random financial reports in a vacuum, right?
Right.
There's you're not going to know how these things fit together. It's gonna be like, okay, great, but like, where does this now put me? What do I
Right.
now do with this stuff? And if you have questions, were you going to send back an email with 40 questions? No, it really helps to have that personal connection for us to really understand the things that our clients are concerned about, right? Where they want to go, what their goals and their aspirations are, and help them figure out where in their financial statements they can find the numbers to support those goals and those aspirations, right? Or to see where they might be lacking, right? Or they might be overspending, that kind of stuff. So that's number one. That's crucially important. We want to have a real relationship because that's where the real trust comes into play and where real breakthroughs can happen. And then on top of that, right? Just so what do they get? Um, Most of our clients actually have access to all of their QuickBooks data. We almost work exclusively off of QuickBooks, but all of their QuickBooks data, we actually put it into a spreadsheet for them, like a live updated Google spreadsheet. It's not hidden behind some portal. It's not in a place where they can't find it. It can't remember where the login is. It's in a Google spreadsheet, and the every single report that they could possibly want from QuickBooks, right? Like go crazy if you want to nerd out on it. Crazy like profit and loss statement, balance sheet,
Yep.
profit and loss detail, whatever, statement of cash flows. It's all there. But on the main page, we put okay. Here are the things that at a glance are the most important KPIs for your business, the financial KPIs for your business, right? And those are going to be things like, okay, how much cash do I have in the bank? And based on my operating expenses from the previous 3 months, um, what does that leave me in terms of runway, right? So if I stop making money right now, how long would my reserves in the bank be able to pay for my normal operating expenses? Because, like
Mm.
you mentioned early on, there are ebbs and flows, right? There are months where there's no commission. There's months where there's $200,000 of GCI coming in, right? So we want people to know that.
Yep.
We also want to give them a historical trend so they can see, okay, well, January and February are usually only, I don't know, they're usually only 20% of my GCI, or they're only 10% of my GCI. And I can see how
Mm-hmm.
last year is the same thing. So I'm not going to get worried about it, right? I just got to know that I'm going to have to make up that ground in Q2. And then things like, okay, what is my GCI as compared to last year? What is my gross profit as compared to last year? So after paying out my cost of sale, what is my gross profit margin? What's my net profit margin? And then how am I doing, right? How are my operating expenses comparing to the best industry models out there, right? So
Hmm.
really the MREA budget model is what we typically use. We'll modify it for different types of teams, but say, okay, for instance, we'll take lead generation as an example. So lead generation is a category of expenses, and it's usually the first or the second highest expense load that a team will have, right?
It's first in mind for
Compensation.
sure.
Well, so you have compensation and lead generation, and that's where most of the spending happens.
Yep.
If you have that's usually where all of the skeletons are too, right?
Yep.
Like if you have a problem with profitability, it's going to be somewhere in compensation or lead generation. Probably not going to be in like your desk fee. It's not going to make or break your year. And so we'll go to lead generation and we'll say, okay, you're spending 7% of your overall GCI on lead generation. And so then they'll know at a glance, well, okay, I'm right on target for how much I should be spending, or I'm underinvested or I'm overinvested, right? So we give them the standard percentages for what they should be spending based on their GCI and then theirs, and they can see exactly the variance in the gap. Um, that's really useful for what we have found is that our clients will share those dashboards that we prepare with their coach, with their director of operations, right? Anybody else who needs visibility into their business and doesn't want to be bombarded by a monthly report that is going to get modified 6 or 7 times. No, they have that live view into the business, and that is what we have found. Just creates a tremendous amount of clarity. Just quick at a glance, snap your fingers. All right, I know exactly where we stand. And I think that's the core of our job. Like I've said it before, is the core of our job is clarity.
Yeah. And I would have to say that took so much stress off of me, because rather than me having to like scramble, because that's how it was for me. It was like last minute scrambling, putting things together, pulling everything together for taxes. Now, every month we review things and it's all there. Like I don't have to worry about scrambling or putting things together or the stress of it all. You've really taken that off of my plate, which as a business owner, as a high D, as a high I, as somebody who does not want to get tangled in the weeds of numbers, obviously reviewing numbers with someone like you to help me understand them. And at the end of our coaching call or a review call every month of leaving with a plan of action has been huge for me, rather than me having to do it all myself. And so that I think is the value of it in itself. Obviously there's so much more, but who's like, obviously if somebody's listening right now, I know you work with, from solo agents up to, big, huge teams. If somebody's listening right now, who's an ideal person that should reach out to you, and who do you like to work with? Because I know you don't just take everybody, right? You want to work with someone who's serious about this and really, that it makes sense for. And so who's your ideal client, and who should contact you if they're listening?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. You're also, Justin, you're a very good interviewer, by the way.
I
I feel
appreciate
like
that.
you get straight to the heart of things, and so well. And I feel like I have a tendency to ramble. But who is an ideal client? It's not necessarily a dollar amount. I think it's really about a mindset,
That's
and
good.
I'll give you some parameters. Our best clients really view this relationship as a true give and take partnership, right? Where they're hiring us to do a very discrete job in their business, and they're willing to give us the time and the resources to make sure that that job can happen and that they get really, really clean and good reporting as a result. So I think we can really structure engagements at almost any GCI you can think of. There might be people on the low end who I'm always happy to chat with folks, right? Schedule a quick call. And I can usually tell pretty quickly, like, hey, you're not ready for us yet. Here are the things you need to do first. And I give you that roadmap where, hey, I'm going to simplify things for you so that you can have confidence about getting to the point where you really need to bring someone like us on. So there may be instances like that, but I'm always happy to chat with people who are on the upswing of their career and getting things cranking, because I can help you avoid a lot of those pitfalls that we talked about at the beginning with taxes, right? And just putting in the right structure and framework and mindset to make that just not a stress point for you, so you can focus on your business. But yeah, everybody else that we work with, we just love working with people who want to collaborate, who are interested in the partnership, who view us as professionals. Those are kind of like, honestly, those are the things that make the relationship last a really, really long time. The other thing that we believe strongly in is that we don't ever sign a contract that's more than a month long. So we always want to be able to show up and win it for our clients. We never want to lock someone into something that they feel like they're just kind of strangled by. We want them to know that, hey, these are your books. This is your business. You own this, and you are going to hire us for leverage. But if at any point the leverage is not what you need it to be, they are your books. It is your data. You take it and you go where you need to go to figure out, to get what you need. And so that, I think, also just creates a lot of trust, because we got to keep winning it all the time. And our clients know that. They know that we just need to go out and crush it for them.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, that's one of the things that really, impressed me about you was when our first call, you're like, listen, let's just work for 1 month. Let me show you what we can do. And if you like what we do, let's keep working together. Whereas in this business, everybody wants to sign a 12-month contract, or everybody wants to sign a 3-month contract or a 6-month contract. And it's like, I don't even know what I'm signing up for yet. What if I'm not happy with this? Well, you're going to have to pay a penalty and then cancel, blah, blah, blah. And so that really impressed me about, working with you. And obviously after month 1, I think we've been working close to a year together now. And I just really, man, I can't stress enough, how important this role as a business owner is to have someone like you, really handling this part of the business that, again, I don't want to handle. Right now, somebody listening right now might be a high C, a high S business owner, team leader, and you love it. You're doing it yourself. Yeah. Great. But if that's not you, and you are an agent, a team leader, a broker, someone that wants to scale, and you know that this part of your business is struggling, you don't have a solution, you're behind on your taxes, you don't even really know where your business is, then I highly recommend that you reach out to Michael. And Michael, we do have a special a URL link that we're going to give out in a moment. But what would it look like if someone reaches out to you? Is it initial phone call, or can you just share what that will look like if someone wants to reach out, and then we'll give them the URL?
Yeah, so there on the website we have a scheduling page. So it really always comes down to about a 30-minute phone call or a Zoom call. And in that call, our sort of ideal is to just add as much value as humanly possible. And if there's a good fit and you want a proposal for us to move forward, we will send you a formal proposal, and we'll move forward that way. But we always want to just understand folks' financial situation, cover all of the bases, understand if they have just one business or they have multiple businesses, and what their real pain points are. That's the other thing. It's like I can pitch solutions all day, right? And I think that's what we get. We just get sort of pitched, especially as people who are small business owners, real estate agents especially. you just get pitched all day long, right?
Yep.
And I think what I want to know is, okay, what are the actual pain points? Where can we actually help? How can we take stress off of your plate and build permanent solutions? That's really what we're looking for. Now, if you don't have problems that we can solve, I'll tell you, hey, we can't solve that problem. Like, you should talk to this person, or you need to go back and do X, Y, or Z on your own because we can't solve that problem. I'm not interested in working with folks because they are getting pitched on features and benefits. I want to work with folks who have a need, they understand the need, and we have a solution to that need.
I love it. I love it. And so if you're listening right now and you want to hop on a call with Michael and his team to really learn, what they can offer you and how they can help you, then you can go to the website agentcfo.co/Justin Ford. Again, that's agentcfo.co/Justin Ford. And I highly recommend take this 30 minutes, and I'm telling you right now, you will leave with a ton of value because Michael really goes above and beyond. And I mean that, being able to work with him for a year, I'm so grateful that I found you, Michael, and I found you through real estate agents within our, my community that I know I didn't just stumble upon a website. I mean, you came highly recommended by multiple people, and definitely highly recommend you the same way that you were recommended for me. And so again, if you need this conversation, and you already know, if you've been listening to this website, you've been waiting for a way to get a hold of Michael, agentcfo.co/Justin Ford. And again, I highly recommend taking that 30 minutes and spending it with Michael. And I promise you this, you will not be disappointed. I've not had I couldn't say anything negative, no disappointment. Michael and his team have been absolutely great, and I'm excited to continue the relationship with you and continue to build my business because we're growing, and you've been a big part of helping us have that confidence to go out and grow. And so I really appreciate you, Michael, definitely. Thank you so much for being on the show. Leave us with something for the listeners, something motivational, something maybe encouraging to leave with the listeners.
Oh, you put me on the spot. I think the one thing that I will encourage folks is that there's not a ton of good press about real estate as an industry or real estate professionals. But my team works with just some of the best people, like Justin, like other folks who are just incredibly edifying. There are so many good people in this industry. And what you do is vital. It is crucial. And I think no matter where technology goes, there will always be a place for excellent professionals in this industry. So, I know there's a lot of excellent professionals who feel beat up by sort of the zeitgeist of the news and lawsuits and things like that. And I just want to recognize that, there are some incredibly hardworking, industrious, professional, truthful people in this industry, and you are very much needed.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, for being put on the spot, that was amazing. And so, Michael, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. And I'd love to have you back because I know that this is important. And, as a real estate coach, but also a professional growing, and expanding even with my own team, this component of business is not optional. It's a necessity, and it's needed because without it, you're eventually going to run out of gas, run out of money, and probably owe the IRS a lot of money. So,
well, thank
Michael,
you for having me, and I would love to be back.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back. And so, guys, if you love the show, do me a favor, go ahead and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And if you really love the show, again, leave us a review. My goal is anytime we bring a guest on the show is to add value to you as the listener. I highly, highly recommend go get on Michael's calendar, agentcfo.co/Justin Ford. And I promise you that you will not be disappointed. Before I wrap up the show today, I do want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Nextdoor Lending. Nextdoor Lending is a team of professionals that believe everyone should be treated as if they live next door. This is not just the sponsor of our show. Guys, this is the personal lender that we entrust with our clients for the Justin Ford Real Estate team. And so currently, they have over 1,000 five-star reviews, a perfect A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If you are a buyer right now and you want to get pre-approved, call my friends over at Nextdoor Lending. If you're a homeowner looking to refinance, maybe take some cash out, call my friends over at Nextdoor Lending. And if you're a real estate professional looking to partner with a great mortgage lender, call my friends over at Nextdoor Lending today at 888-885-3667 or visit their website at nextdoorlending.com. Two things I always like to leave you with. Number one, it's not how you start. What matters is how you finish. And number two, with God, all things are possible. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.